Bryan Munch. The speech title is Corporate for Life. Corporate with the 4 being the number 4. Corporate for Life, Bryan Munch.
I got a call from one of our favorite Toastmasters the other day, one who unfortunately left American Greetings for greener pastures. And I asked him, what was it like on your last day leaving the building? How'd you feel? And he said, well, it felt like this huge burden was lifted off my shoulders. And he said the first words that popped into his head were those of Martin Luther King Jr. Free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. What is it about corporate culture that fills us with this kind of stress, makes us look for greener pastures? Well, maybe it's the policies. We have a lot of weird policies. For example, as of May of next year, you are no longer allowed to smoke anywhere on the company premises, including your own car, if it's in the parking lot. So what's a good smoker to do? Well, you have to get in your car and drive, presumably, to the nearest smoking-friendly facility, which, as far as I can figure, is right next to the Burger King. So think of the incentives that we're creating here. I mean, I already know, as a non-smoker, that I get more breaks if I take up smoking. So now, if I take up smoking, I can wash down the nicotine with a double Whopper with cheese. The policies don't always make sense, but neither does the workplace jargon. I mean, if we're not touching base and we're doing a deep dive, maybe we're getting out of the box in the loop, or on the same page. I can't really keep this straight. My favorite workplace jargon was one that my first boss in American Greetings made up inadvertently. I'm sitting there typing to him in an instant message. We're talking about a forecast that I'm supposed to deliver to him. And he types, Bryan, don't forget to F/U. F/U, F-U. Usually when those letters are adjacent to each other, it sounds like he's swearing at me. I swear I read this probably a dozen times before I realized he wanted me to follow up. But I have to admit, I do use that still in my instant messages just to see what kind of reaction I'll get. Linda, please make sure you F up with me after the meeting. Yeah, I love workplace jargon, but I also love meetings. I think most of you know what I'm talking about. I know I personally take a George Costanza approach to meetings, and I'll explain what that means. In an episode of Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld, asked George how he gets away with doing so little work. And George explains, well, every time my boss comes in, I just look really annoyed, and then I look busy. Oh, gee, phew, oh, jeez. You see what I mean? Well, I take that to the next level. When my boss comes in, I act really annoyed, and then I also reference my meetings, all the meetings I have. Hey, Bryan, how's it going? Oh, jeez, look at this calendar. I have so many meetings. Might as well call it American meetings instead of American Greetings. Yeah, and when I'm walking to all these meetings that inevitably fill up my schedule, I love walking down our ridiculously long hallways. Maybe a lot of you have forgotten how ridiculous it is, but I'll give you an example of what the usual scenario is like. The halls are completely empty, except for me and one other person. Maybe it's a non. I see him from 100 feet out, and I'm thinking, okay, well, it's pretty silly to have a conversation from this far, so maybe I walk a little further. Okay, we're still coming right at each other, 75 feet. Okay, maybe I can give him a little wave at this point. All right, we're still going. Where do I look? I can't look at him. Maybe I'll look at the wall. Maybe I'll look at the ground, the ceiling, or what's going on at Starbucks. I don't know. Okay, 25 feet, now I'm in range. I'll start thinking, okay, if I time it just right, I can say, Hanan, how are you doing? He can say, how are you doing? And then we can walk past perfectly timed. And that's how it usually goes, right? Now, I have to admit that I do love working here, despite all these idiosyncrasies that we see in our everyday lives. But I think of the immortal words of Martin Luther King Jr. when I think about working here. I have a dream that one day we'll all work from home. Madam Toastmaster, or Madam Contest Master, sorry.